Looking for the best hosting platform for your podcast? In this video, I'm breaking down the top podcast hosting services. Let's do it. Welcome to the Tricycle Creative YouTube channel, a place where I create digital marketing and business growth videos. So 2 quick things before we get started. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. The second thing, please consider using the links in the description of this video. This helps to support this channel at absolutely no cost to you. So thanks in advance. The 3 podcast hosting platforms I'm going to be discussing today are Libsyn, BuzzSprout, and Anchor.fm. And I've put together a whole slew of judging categories. So let me show you what I got over here on this computer. Let's go. So to properly assess these 3 podcast platforms, I put together 8 different judging categories, starting with pricing. How much do they cost? Show creation. What are the tools, if any, that they give you to create your show? Distribution. How do they help you get your podcast out to all the respective different podcast services? Analytics. What kind of data are they giving you about your podcast? Web player. So if you want to take your podcast and really use it on your website, integrate it into blog posts, web player, or the ability to have a web player, is huge. So we're going to talk about that. Special features. Some of these platforms have incredibly unique features that other ones don't have. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And maybe those might be an X factor for why you would choose one over the other. Monetization. What tools do they give you to monetize your podcast? And lastly, music. I don't mean this in like what music do they provide you to do your podcast. I mean, if you want to do a music podcast, which of these platforms helps you do that? When it comes to pricing, the winner is Anchor.fm. And this probably doesn't mean anything to you, but coming in here, they have absolutely, this is a brand new website. Anchor is owned by Spotify, and we'll talk about why that's important a little bit later. But Anchor, right here, create, distribute, and monetize your podcast all for free. Anchor.fm is 100% free. So it wins when we're talking about pricing. Now, I want to give an honorable mention. In some of these categories, I am going to have these honorable mentions, and that honorable mention would go to BuzzSprout. So they have a free account, but it is limited, right? You have 2 hours per month. There's some other conditions. You don't always get all the features. As you see here, it will include ads on your podcast website, if that means anything to you. So BuzzSprout does have a free, but like free asterisk, like there's conditions. Anchor, everything they offer, everything they do, you get for free. If you're looking for a way, or I guess maybe more specifically the tools to actually build your podcast online, the winner is Anchor.fm. And in fact, it's the only one of these 3 platforms that has the tools to build your podcast inside of the platform. And as you can see here, you can record straight from your computer. You can record on your computer and upload it here. You can also bring in music, which we'll talk about in the music section a little bit later on. Messages, special feature, we'll get to that, just hold on. And you can also have these like transitions. So you can add in, little sound effects and things between your segments, that kind of thing. So very useful when it comes to show creation. Anchor's the winner. Distribution is important because just because you have your podcast in this host, you need to still get your podcast sent out to all the different platforms where people listen to podcasts, they call them the directories, things like that. And for this is a three-way tie. They all do this. They all do it essentially. It's super simple on all of them. Here we're looking at Anchor, here on BuzzSprout, and then also on Libsyn. They all do, I've used them all for this. They do a fantastic job. This is really just a three-way tie. When it comes to analytics for your podcast, stats, data, Libsyn is the winner here. But it's close. I just want to be very clear. This is not a runaway for Libsyn. And there's kind of an asterisk around this. Libsyn, if we go and look at their plans and pricing, they start as low as $5 a month, and you get your basic stats. Or actually here for this, you have to pay an extra $2 for even your basic stats, which kind of sucks, but you're still under $10 a month. Then, however, if you want your more advanced stats, you would have to pay for that. So it is hard to recommend. I want to be very clear. The other two, Anchor and BuzzSprout, do have great analytics features. Libsyn's, however, even though you have to pay for them, and even they're free, are just slightly better than the other two. But something to think about, that you kind of got to pay for them to get that added extra. And you got to ask yourself, do I really need that? I love data and analytics, but you got to ask yourself, how granular do I need or want to get? And am I willing to pay for that? When you're creating a podcast, you want to try to get it out there to as many people as you can and give them as many options and ways to listen as possible. That's where having a web player comes in and is incredibly valuable. So if you do a podcast, a web player, you could take it. It gives you some HTML code. You can put that on your blog, on your website. You can share it with other people. Maybe if you have guests to put on their blog and their website, it's incredibly valuable. Now, Anchor.fm has no web player. You have to go to Spotify to listen to them. Libsyn has a web player, but it's a little basic. It'll definitely do the job, and I used it for years, but it's a little basic. So the winner here is BuzzSprout. BuzzSprout absolutely lives up to giving you a beautiful podcast player for your website. And I can even show you here, so Tripod, the Tricycle Creative podcast. I use BuzzSprout, and you'll notice just how really, again, beautiful this player is right here. It has some really great features. You can speed up the time or how quick the audio goes. So, maybe you want to listen to it in double time or 5x time. I don't know, that would be quite impressive. You're like a speed listener, something like that. You can do that. The other thing, it adds in, the metadata from the episode in here. It's just a really beautiful, fully functioned player, and it has some special features, but we're going to get into that in a different segment. But for my money and for what I needed to do, BuzzSprout's web player is the best. So here we are in the special features segment. Now what this is some of these platforms have very unique or things that only they do. So I wanted to capture those and present them to you and share them with you. Now, in this category, the winner for me is BuzzSprout. And I'm going to tell you why. It's related to their web player. So if we go to the web player, again, this is for Tripod, the Tricycle Creative podcast. Would love it if you checked it out, tripodpodcast.com. If you hover over it, there are these 3 dots right here, right? And you click on it, it's chaptering. This allows you to actually create chaptering inside of your podcast on the web player so people can jump straight to particular segments of the show. This is awesome. I love, love, love this feature. And it's something that none of the others provide when it comes to their web player. Now, I should, however, mention, I do have an honorable mention for Anchor. Anchor has a really cool feature where you can message the show. So it gives you a show page, and then someone can click this and actually record a message to send to your show, and it saves it inside of Anchor. So you could take requests, ask, put something out on Twitter, have them send you their thoughts, and then you can incorporate it into the show. Super slick. It's right there, requires no work on your part. So an honorable mention going to Anchor. But for me, when we're looking at these special features, that chaptering on the web player is awesome. Hey guys, so I'm about to talk about monetization. But before we did that, I just wanted to speak my truth here. If you are coming in to podcasting and the first thing and the number one thing you want to do is make money, just don't do it. Don't do it. The monetization tools I'm going to talk about here are going to help you to, yes, make some money off your podcast. Are you going to be swimming in a money bin like Scrooge McDuck? No. Oh, actually, maybe you are. But that is always the small percentage of people. I want you, here's what I want you to do. I want you to focus on content, on your audience for at least the first 3 to 6 months. Do not worry about making money. If you are obsessed with making money, then you are not going to develop your audience and your podcast is going to suck. It's not unlike YouTube channel building. So focus on content for at least your first 3 to 6 months. Build your audience. Get a good understanding for what your show is about. It's going to evolve, most likely. So please, I'm going to talk about monetization, but please come into this thinking content first, thinking audience first, and the monetization stuff, it will come. All right, let's talk about monetization. When it comes to monetization, the easiest one, Anchor. So they do have an option where listeners can support you, so they can donate money to your show, that kind of thing. They also have a super easy to use feature here where they can give you kind of the details of a sponsor and then you record it and you insert it into your show. Now, again, I'm going to tell you, you ain't gonna be making millions off this. This is on what's almost like a CPM model, which is you get paid probably like a fraction of a cent based on every 1,000 plays. So you're not going to be making a ton of money off this, potentially. Maybe you are. I hope you do. But I just want to set the stage appropriately. But the tools inside of Anchor are the easiest to use, and they're right there. Now, I do want to give honorable mention to BuzzSprout. BuzzSprout, kind of similarly, gives you the tools and the connections, if you will, to affiliate marketing opportunities. So these are things where, as you're seeing here, oh, okay, hey, this could be good for your show. You can do a live read, tell us that you inserted it in your show, that kind of thing. So useful tools. I did find, however, the BuzzSprout stuff was not necessarily as easy or even as fruitful as the Anchor.fm tool. So when it comes to monetization, Anchor is the winner. So our last category here is music. And again, just to recap, I'm not saying or talking about which platforms give you some music, like what they call bed music or things that you can use in your show. I'm talking about if you want to do a music podcast, which of these 3 services is the best? And the winner, hands down, is Anchor. They're actually the only service who you can do a legit music podcast. So let me explain that just a little bit. I come from the world of broadcasting to start. You can do a podcast and you can put music in it and you can export the file and upload it to Apple Podcasts or what have you. But these services are getting smarter about that non-authorized usage of music. When someone plays that stream, the artist should be paying for that. And argue what you will, the fraction of a cent that they get paid, but they should be getting paid for you using that music. Well, the nice thing about Anchor, since it's owned by Spotify, it is fully integrated. So you can build your show and then pull in music from Spotify and build and create an actual music show. Now, the caveat to this is it can only be listened to on Spotify because you pick the song directly from the Spotify library. And so people have to go to Spotify to listen to your show. And if they don't have a paid subscription to Spotify, they only get, I think it's like a 20 or 30 second preview clip of the song as part of your podcast. So I've really enjoyed using this. I have a personal podcast, a music show that I do on Anchor, and I absolutely love it. I also have a talk show that I do using another feature or another platform, which we'll talk about here in a second, but I've used this feature. I really like it. Yes, it has limitations, but it's legit, and that's important. So when it comes to doing a music show, Anchor is the winner. So let's do a recap with a scorecard. When we're talking about pricing, the winner, Anchor.fm, with honorable mention going to BuzzSprout, because they do have that free account, but it's like freemium. There's an asterisk after it. There's some exceptions. You don't get the full suite of tools. When we're talking about show creation, the winner, Anchor. When we're talking about distribution, three-way tie. All of them do this equally well. Analytics, slight edge to Libsyn, but if you remember, you may have to pay for that. So it's an ever so slight edge to Libsyn. And I would say an honorable mention going to BuzzSprout. BuzzSprout does have, again, of these three, the second best analytics, and it's not like you have to pay a little extra for it. Web player, BuzzSprout by a long shot. It is by far the best looking, super functional web player. Special features, BuzzSprout. If you remember that chaptering tool in the web player, I love that freaking thing. Monetization. Anchor.fm walks away with the winner here when it comes to monetization. I think they do a really good job of making it super simple for you. And again, I'm going to say it for like the 900th time. You may not be making tons of money off it, but at least gives you the tools to get started with it. And lastly, with music, the only platform of these three that allows you to create a legit music podcast is Anchor.fm. So when you look at the scorecard, Anchor.fm is the winner, BuzzSprout is a very close second, and Libsyn is third. This was hard for me to do. I really did come into this not knowing who the quote-unquote winner was going to be. And I'm going to tell you in full disclosure, I actually use all three of these. And depending on how many podcasts you do or what type of podcast you do, you may lean towards one platform over the other. For example, for my music podcast, Ross Hero Radio, I use Anchor.fm because, as I've mentioned, it's the only platform that allows me to create a legit music podcast. But for my talk podcast, Tripod, the Tricycle Creative podcast, I use BuzzSprout. And then lastly, I have a very personal project, a podcast of mine dedicated to a college mentor. And for that, I did Libsyn. So I've used all of these, and I encourage you to check them out. Hopefully this video has helped to at least guide you in the right direction. But I don't believe that there's always a one tool that makes sense for everyone. So I encourage you to check these tools out. Hopefully this video helps. Don't forget, before you leave, like, comment, subscribe. If there are other podcast platforms that you're curious about, or maybe that you even use, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm a tinkerer. I love to learn about new platforms and services and features and stuff like that. So if there's one that you use, please let me know. And if you're a podcaster, share your show with me. I'd love to give it a listen. And I thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit about these great podcast platforms. So, until next time, as always, I encourage you to keep pedaling.